The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read. Your source for news, politics, sports, and all things trending. Here's your host, Marcus Gentry.
Wall Street ended another tumultuous week with another big loss on Friday. The Dow fell more than 900 points, but the week also saw the biggest one-day point gain in history, following word that a $2 trillion economic relief package would pass Congress.
I played that clip for you people because this is going to be a big show. For all of my live feed, you can't really see what's on my screen, but you'll just have to catch the show when I air it. But today's show is going to be in two parts. The first part, we're going to talk about what comes after. What comes after this whole economic crash that's going to happen. Actually, that's going to be my second part of the show. The first part of the show is what they're trying to do to you now. And for all of my truck drivers out there that listen to my show, you know, all of my gamers out there, you know, we're part of Old Man Gaming, me and a couple of guys that support my show on Xbox, Twitch. You know, this whole economic crash is going to happen. Y'all got to understand this. This economy is done. Okay? We've enjoyed this economy since the Great Depression. Men and women in this country have gotten rich off of this particular economy for the last 70 years. Okay? I played that clip for you at the beginning of this show because I want you to understand what they're about to do to America. They're about to rob the piggy bank. Okay? Now what I mean when I say they're about to rob the piggy bank is they know the powers that be, the Trump administration, all of his rich backers, they were caught by surprise. Mother Nature dropped a coronavirus bomb on these people. Okay? Everybody know about white privilege. It's been talked about. It's on all the black shows, some white shows. White people even know about it. How this economy and the things that go on in this country is steered more towards the white people. That don't mean blacks can't become millionaires and make money. But this entire economy and everything that goes along with it is geared towards Caucasians, white people. Now, the reason why I got to split this show up in two parts because something is finna come down that's gonna hit America hard. And there's two ways we can go about defeating this virus. Okay? We can shut down this whole country for 2 months. Let the virus burn out. Whoever's already infected, let them get better. If they pass away, we're gonna bury our dead, pray over our dead, and bury our dead. That's the first way. The second way is open back up the economy. People are going to get sick even more and start dying. And then we're going to have to shut down the economy anyway. So you got to understand what they're finna do. A lot of my podcasters out there who do podcasting like me, all the Young Turks, TYT, Sam Sneeder, you know, I love these guys, but they missing the whole point. And I guess it's because I'm bringing it to you from a minority and a black man perspective, but they missing the whole point of what's going on. Trump was sent in there to secure the wealth of this country for Caucasians. Barack Obama scared these people to death. Okay? He scared these people. So now that Mother Nature done dropped this coronavirus bomb on this country, they wasn't prepared for the stock market to crash like that. And I'm finna get into the weeds of this because y'all got to understand what this is, what they finna do to you. Donald Trump's donors, these multimillionaires and billionaires, don't get it twisted. He don't care about you. If you're a middle class white man or white woman in society or below, he ain't thinking about you. You got to be out your mind if you think he does. These people have been calling Donald Trump, telling him we got to get some of our money back. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. The average Donald Trump donor that pays millions of dollars for his campaigns, these people have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stock. Okay? I'm going to keep this number small because I got a lot of intelligent listeners, but some of you might need a little help with me explaining what's going on to you. Okay. Say you got a multimillionaire Trump supporter. He has a thousand shares of stock. Each of those shares are worth $100 a piece. Okay. Now, that's $100,000. When the coronavirus hit and the stock market crashed, the stocks that these people are holding on to are not worth no more than $25, $30. That's $25,000. These people done took a $75,000 break. They done took a loss of $75,000. Okay. Like I said, I'm just giving you small numbers. This is an example because I want you to follow along with what's going on with what's going on in America right now. The reason why Donald Trump got on the podium at this briefing and told America we need to get you back to work, and they gave you the stimulus package, is what you call the okie doke. Okay? The rope-a-dope. This is Muhammad Ali, the rope-a-dope. You know, bobbing and weaving. They know that this economy is done. It's over with. These multimillionaires and stockholders are trying to recop some of their money. They wasn't prepared for this coronavirus bomb. You got to understand, they wasn't prepared for this coronavirus bomb, people. So now, if they get you back to work, they gave you a stimulus package that's going to raise the stock up just enough to make it 50%, maybe 60% back to what it was. It'll never get back to $100 a share. But at least when they cash out, they can make good. They can break even or break halfway of what they put into the stock. You got to understand this. They gambling with your life. They're gambling with your life. This economy is over with, which is going to lead me into my next part of my show. They can either shut down this economy for 2 months, which the economy is going to crash and burn if they do. But it's going to save lives. Okay. If they shut it down for 2 months and this economy saves lives, they took a loss. Those thousand shares worth of stock that they had that was at $100 a piece, it's worth nothing. These people done took too much of a loss. That means millionaires are going to become upper middle class. Upper middle class are going to become middle class. And middle class are going to become poor. Everybody's going to take a big bump down the scale. So basically the whole playing field is going to be laid open. Y'all got to understand what they're doing to you. Now the second way they can do this is send you back to work, give you a little stimulus package, and let you think that they're doing something about this when they know they don't have it under control. Okay, this whole virus is out of control. It's burning through this country left and right. We already got over 2,000 deaths in this country and over 100,000 people sick. Our medical profession, our medical system is about to crash. Once your medical people in the medical field crash and the whole medical system is done, you can't send people back to work. Because now they don't have no place to send their kids to school because the schools are closed. So they can't work. You can't get injured at work because the medical system is crashed. They know this. But they're trying to risk your life just so they can recop some of their money back. And it pisses me off. Now you're going to have people that's going to say, well, people die of cancer all the time. So, we don't stop the economy because people dying of cancer. We don't stop the economy because people have car accidents. Let me tell you about that train of thought right there, people. If you die of cancer, you're dead, your family mourns, but life moves on. This coronavirus, even though cancer might kill more people, if you catch this coronavirus and spread it to 50 other people or 25 other people, that's at least 20 more people that might go to the hospital and send the whole medical industry into a free fall. So this whole analogy that these people trying to defend this whole analogy about car accidents and cancer kill more people than the corona, man, come on, man. Y'all got to tell these people, when they say some stupid ass shit like that, y'all got to tell these people, look, man, cancer doesn't send 25 other people to the hospital. You got to understand this. Cancer doesn't send 25 other people to the hospital. And you're going to have people out here that try to argue with you that we should go back to work because you don't crash an economy over a virus. Because cancer kills people. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Cancer doesn't send 25 other people to the hospital, but this virus does. So that's the reason why these people are trying to get you by April to go back to work, because these multimillionaires and billionaires who have lost so much money in the stock market, they're trying to recop some of their money back. I'm gonna give, like I say, I try to give you people that example of a person who owns $1,000 shares in stock at $100 a share. Right now, those stocks that he has ain't worth nothing but $20 a share. He lost over 70% of that stock. These are the people who are calling Donald Trump, telling Donald Trump you need to get Americans back to work because they need to get back their money. Don't fall for this. They're playing with your life. Because this economy is done. Either way you go. If you shut the economy down for 2 months, the economy is done. If you send people back to work and hundreds of thousands start getting sick and you get a little bit of your money back, they're going to have to shut the economy down anyway. It's done. The economy is done. We are already in a recession. A deep recession. The Great Depression only had 29% or 25% job loss in the Great Depression. We are already at 29% of job losses. So really, to be honest with you, we damn near in a depression. Y'all got to understand this. These rich and powerful people are playing with your life. Now, when I come back, I'm going to jump into the next part of my show, because the next part of my show is really important for minorities. And I'm not just talking about blacks. When I say minorities, because if I'm talking about blacks, I'm going to say black people, my people, black people. When I say minorities, I'm talking about Hispanic Americans, Japanese Americans, Black Americans, Chinese Americans, Japanese. I'm talking about even poor white people, because y'all consider minorities too. You don't even realize it. If you poor or middle class and lower middle class and you white in this country, you considered a minority. And you don't even realize it. So when I say minorities, on this next part of my show, when I come back off this commercial break, I'm going to explain to you the history of what's going on, and then I'm explaining to you what's finna happen after the coronavirus burns through this country, because there will be a country after this economic crash. Don't get it twisted, people. These people are trying to scare you into believing that if we don't save this economy, America's done. No, America's not done, people. This economy is over with. It's time to move on to the next economy. It's time to restructure. Now, when I get back on my after this break, I'm gonna give you a demonstration of why it's so important that y'all understand this show and understand what's going on with these people. Because we have never sat at the table, never, when America had to restructure their economy. Never. But right now that minorities are blended in with society, if they have to restructure this economy, we got a seat at the table now. That's why they have fear. You got to understand this. They have fear because now, if they have to restructure the economy, they can't exclude us now. I'm going to let that simmer on your soul for a second. And when we get back off this break, I'm going to explain to you why that we got a seat at the table now.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
Who isn't having a problem right now? Who is able to get access to tests? Who is able to fly out of anywhere there was an issue? Who is able to isolate easily? The wealthy. The wealthy. That is going to be true for every major coming event. They will find a way out. That is why a lot of the things that people are like, well, you know, they wouldn't do that because it's going to impact them too. No, it won't. It won't.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
We've talked about this economy feeling like it just came to a standstill. As we're starting to feel some of the impact, can you look ahead a few months to have any indication as to how much worse it may get?
Well, I think that we're at the tip here, and we're clearly in a recession. We had the IMF chief say that the world is already in a recession. Many of the economists I speak to say that this is at least sort of a march through the summer event. So we're going to see a recession, which is loosely defined as 2 negative quarters in a row. But I think that we're going to see the economy really come to a halt right now.
All right, people, I'm back. Like I was saying in my first segment, this economy, people, this economy is done. Okay? Right now, the only thing left to do is for the Trump administration and all the wealthy billionaires and millionaires of this country that backs him is to pilfer the American coffers. That's it. This stimulus package is going to give some of America's top companies millions and billions of dollars. Okay. Like I told you, the economy is going to crash anyway. Y'all got to understand this. You got to get this understanding in your mind. This economy is done. This virus, Mother Nature dropped a bomb on these people with this virus. You know, you can call it global warming because every time the earth heats up, it's true, it's facts. You can look this up, people. Viruses spring up. You can call it global warming, you call it whatever you want to call it, but Mother Nature dropped a bomb on these people. So now they're trying to get you to go back to work knowing hundreds of thousands of you are going to get sick and some of you are going to probably die, just so they can hide in their mansions behind their gates and send people to the store for them and collect their money. It's going to crash anyway. Now, let's talk about what's finna happen after the crash, after the coronavirus. This is very important. So for all of my truckers out there, you know, all of my minorities out there, and like I said, minorities go for lower middle class whites on down. Y'all consider minorities too. Don't get it twisted. You might have a little bit of white privilege, but the people that run this shit, the people that run this country, they serious. Okay? We're going to take this back to the Civil War. Because now I got to get you to the point where you understand how important today's message to you is. Okay? I'm not going to dive too deep in the weeds of history. But you got to understand the history about this to understand where this is going. Okay? During the Civil War, we had an economics. We had an economic structure. Okay. The whole Civil War was not fought over slaves, people. We need to get that understood. Don't let these people try to change history to let you believe that the whole Civil War was fought over slavery. It wasn't. The Civil War was fought over economics. Okay? The South had more money than the North because they had free labor. Okay? They had free labor. Now, when the South tried to break off and become their own country because they wanted to make trades with Europe, the North wasn't having it. Now, this is what the economic structure was during the Civil War. The South would send major cotton, corn, wheat, things of that nature to the North. The North had factories. Okay? So when they send the cotton that slaves picked at the plantations to the North, the Northerners didn't have slaves. So what they had to do was pay a white man to come into their factory and make this cotton into denim, make this cotton into thread. So that means the North had more factories and industry, but the South had more money. That was what the Civil War was fought about. Now where the slaves come in at is, Europe had already gotten rid of slavery years before the Civil War even happened. The South was trying to get Europe to recognize the South as their own country. Abraham Lincoln was smart enough to recognize what was going on and decided to free all the slaves. Because Abraham Lincoln knew that if the Europeans understood that you can't recognize the South as a country if they still have slaves when you gave up your slaves. Think about that now. This is real history. You can look this up. Don't let people rewrite history and make you believe that the whole Civil War was fought over slavery. That's not what it was fought about. Abraham Lincoln was smart enough to recognize that if the European countries recognized the South as its own country, the Europeans were going to come in and help the South fight the Civil War. And we would have lost. The North would have lost the Civil War. So what he did, he made a declaration that all slaves were free. So now Europe is in a situation where we can't deal with you because we already done outlawed slavery. So now we're going to go to India and get our cotton instead of dealing with the South because the South still had slaves. So now the South had to fight by themselves against the North. That's what the Civil War was about. So now I gave you that brief history. That's history lesson 101. Now we finna get into something else. After the Civil War and we won, there was what you call a Reconstruction era. A Reconstruction era was the time where the economics changed. Okay? The South and the North had to come back together and decide on how we're going to get money together. Okay? You got to decide, y'all back home now. The South is back with the United States now. Y'all not your own country. So we got to work this out. That's what the whole Reconstruction era was about. Notice what I said didn't involve black people, because we were still considered slaves in a lot of places. We didn't have a seat at the table. Now I'm finna move ahead to the Depression, the Great Depression. During the Great Depression, there were a lot of Italian whites, Jewish whites, German whites, Irish whites that came into this country as immigrants around 1920, 1929, when the Great Depression happened. White people who were already here, the sons and daughters of slave owners, didn't like them people. They treated them people just like they treated black people. They treated them people like the scum of the earth. Donald Trump's grandfather was a German immigrant. A lot of people didn't know that. This is real history. You can look it up. So now, the Great Depression dropped. Stock market crashed. White people lost millions. We had to restructure the economy. Franklin D. Roosevelt brought in the New Deal. Okay? Franklin D. Roosevelt. Now remember what I said now about the Civil War. They had the Reconstruction era. After the Great Depression, they had the New Deal. Okay? I did not say not one time that minorities had a seat at the table. Understand what I'm telling you, people. Listen to what I'm saying very carefully. Immigrants like the Jews, the Italians, the Irish, the Germans, they started making millions because they had a seat at the table. They were white. You got Italians running Las Vegas. You got Jews running all the movie theaters that you see. The movie production companies, MGM, Fox, all of this stuff, those are Jewish people, most of them. You got to get this understood. These were the people who, whites that was already here, considered scum of the earth. Just like they look at Mexicans now. That's how they treat Mexicans now. Now I'm finna jump ahead to the coronavirus. We've been living under the New Deal for the last 70 years, 70 to 80 years after the Great Depression. We've had a lot of recessions in between, but we basically been living under what they set in place after the Great Depression. This is what these people are scared of. They know that if we have to tear down this economy and rebuild, blacks, Hispanics, Japanese Americans, Chinese Americans are at the table now. It's starting to come to you now. You're starting to get the understanding of what I'm talking about. If we have to tear down this economy because of this virus, we're not going back to the same economy. That's done. This whole economy we living under right now, it's done. We're going to have a complete restructuring. Just like after the Civil War. Just like after the Great Depression. I hope y'all paying attention. I hope y'all paying attention. This is real. It's happening. We living in history right now. You see, during the Civil War, we were still considered slaves. We didn't have a seat at the table when they reconstructed the economics of this country. During the Great Depression, we didn't have a seat at the table. A couple of whites who were immigrants did, like the German whites, Italian whites, Jewish whites, Irish whites. All these people passed their wealth down to people like Donald Trump. Donald Trump's family wasn't around during slavery days. Donald Trump's family came here in the 20s. But they got rich after the Reconstruction, after the Great Depression. So now we finna have another upheaval in the economics of this country. Everything's finna be like this. Flat. Everything's gonna be cheap. Stock's gonna be cheap. Minorities are gonna have an opportunity to get in. Because you can't block us out now. We too much of an integral part of this country. Back during the Civil War, we wasn't. Back during the Great Depression, most of us were shoeshine boys, dishwashers. We ain't had no seat at the table. Now you always gonna have that black person gonna pop up and say, man, we had millionaires back in them days too. Them folks didn't have no seat at the table. They might have got rich making a product or something. You know, they might have been a famous black singer. Like, you know, we got our blues singers and blues trumpet players and jazz musicians who were black, who broke barriers and went into white jazz clubs. Yeah, that happened. That happened. But they didn't have a seat at the table on how the country was going to be reconstructed. We living in history right now. We got a seat at the table right now. We got too many black mayors, black governors, black senators, black city councilmen, black lawyers, black military soldiers, black generals. We too integrated into this country now. You can't exclude us from the table. That's what they fear. That's why they're trying to hold on to this economy right here. That's why they're trying to hold on for dear life to this economy right here. This economy is done. It's dead. Mother Nature dropped a bomb on these people. They discombobulated right now. They don't even know what the hell to do. Because they see it slipping out of their hands. Everything just slipped out their hands with one virus. All because of bigotry. All because of bigotry. You see what bigotry, and you know, and I want to tell my truck drivers this, man, because I got a lot of white truck drivers who I disagree with sometimes when I ran across them out there over the road. We'll be sitting in the lobby somewhere of a truck stop talking on our break or whatever, and they'll say something about a Mexican. Now, I'm a black man now. I'm not finna sit here and agree with you about a Mexican. Because I can only imagine what you say about me behind my back. I can only imagine what you said about me behind my back if you sit here talking like this in front of me about a Mexican. So, bigotry, this is the key, people. Bigotry just got a slap in the face. Mother Nature just punched him in the face. And I'm going to tell you how Mother Nature punched him in the face. Everything Barack Obama did, Donald Trump has tried to undo. Barack Obama left the Trump administration a folder, a file, that had everything that they needed to do. They had everything they needed to do in case an epidemic broke out in this country. Donald Trump threw it in the trash. I'm going to let that sit on your soul for a minute. Donald Trump threw it in the trash and fired all of the pandemic specialists that Obama put in place, all because of bigotry. This is real life. This happened. You can look this up. You can look this up, people. I want you to listen to Sam Sneeder on the Minority Report. I love this guy. This guy right here, he's a beast. I follow his show. I follow his podcast. And this guy right here, these are two white guys now. They're talking about how other white people are going crazy over the economy crashing. Because these white people that are going crazy over the economy crashing are the ones who understand that the whole white privilege thing that they've been enjoying for the last 70 years, that's come tumbling down on their heads. They have this understanding that this economy is done. We finna have to restructure this whole economic structure. They understand this. So I want you to listen to these two white men. I love these guys to death. They funny. But they talking about how some of the other white media are freaking out.
Britt Hume, who I believe also yesterday it was, called for, people over the age of 70 to, suck it up, take one for the team. Well, take them all for the team, I guess. And,
take all and everything for the team.
Yeah. Like the ultimate sacrifice. I mean, it's just amazing the way that these people are just like the way that they can pivot from like, we must protect, death panels. The idea that you couldn't, at the end of life, you couldn't choose, we would have some form of rational application of care is a death panel. But in this instance, like, well, look, we got a stock market's tanking. So, throw grandma under the bus.
Now, this is funny, people. I hope y'all listening to this. This is funny. They're talking about white people on Fox News. They're scared because the economy is crashing around their heads. The whole white privilege thing, where you can walk into a bank and be white and get a loan before a black person that has probably better credit than you, all that's come tumbling down. It's crashing. This whole economy is gone. And I'm going to tell y'all something else that's going to mess you up. It's going to be black people that's going to ride along with this garbage. They're going to want to save this economy because they have learned over the last 70 years to tap dance around the whole bigotry and racism thing to make their money. I'm gonna let that sit on your soul for a minute. I'm gonna let you listen to some more of this. This is interesting.
Here's Brett Hume sort of waxing poetic on why people are mad about Trump's COVID-19 response. Is it the fact that less than a month ago, weeks ago, he was calling this a hoax? What is it the fact that he's refusing to release unemployment funds? Is it the fact that he's refusing to tell companies to produce stuff for Americans? No, that's not it. Play this clip.
Look, the mortality rate from this is higher enough that it makes it alarming. So it's obviously a much more a special kind of case. But there we are. We don't shut down the economy to save every single life that's threatened by a widespread disease. We just don't.
Now, listen to this man on Fox News. This man is explaining everything I just said to you. He's saying you don't shut down the economy because a virus is killing people. Listen to the barbaric nature that done came out of this guy who has a suit on Fox News. The barbaric nature of this guy that just came out right there. He don't understand that. Well, he knows, but he is betting that you, the average Fox News watcher, that you don't know, that you don't understand what the implications of this is. The implications is everything we know and love is finna come tumbling down our white heads. It's done. We're gonna have to restructure. And the people during the restructuring are gonna be minorities with us. This is done. I'm hoping y'all getting what I'm trying to explain to you. I'm gonna take one more commercial break, and when I come back, I'm gonna let y'all see a guy who has a podcast like mine, and this guy's freaking out. This guy's literally, you can see him progress over the time period that he's talking. He has the shakes, his voice is quivering. I'm talking about this guy is really scared. This is one of those white conservative guys who when Barack Obama was in office, he was talking crap about Barack. He was hating on Barack. He was doing this, doing that, talking about socialism. Now that Donald Trump is in office and they thought they had everything going along with their plans, Mother Nature just dropped a bomb on these people with the coronavirus. And he is literally freaking out on television. So when we get back, I'm going to show you this guy.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
How is this bill going to affect Americans? What are the big takeaways?
I think the big takeaways is that we really are seeing a lifeline come from Washington, D.C. We've got three aspects, big aspects of the plan, and we think about individuals first. Well, you mentioned earlier in the show those checks, $1,200 checks to anyone who makes less than $75,000. That amount does phase lower as you approach $99,000. Just know that if you make less than $99,000 as a household, your adjusted gross income, you're going to get a check.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.
All right, people, we back with the Daily Read, and I am your host, Marcus Gentry. Now, I'm going to go back over the first two segments of the show real quick before I get into this guy. Now, we talked about what they're trying to do to you. The economists, the Trump administration, all the multimillionaires and billionaires who own stocks in the stock market, these people know and understand that the economy is done. They're trying to get back some of their money by sending you back to work, even though they know there's a deadly virus killing people. And they have given America a stimulus package. That stimulus package is going to be enough money to boost the stocks back up, enough for these people to cash out on. Y'all got to understand this. I talked about that on my first segment of my show. My second segment of my show, I gave you a brief history about how the Civil War, after the Civil War, there was an economic restructuring of this country. After the Great Depression, there was an economic restructuring of this country. Now that we have the coronavirus, there's about to be an economic restructuring of this country. Think about this. During the Civil War, we didn't have a seat at the table. Y'all got to understand this. During the Civil War, we didn't have a seat at the table. We were still considered slaves. The Great Depression, we might have been free, but we had no rights. We couldn't even vote. So around that time, when they had to restructure, a lot of the white Italians or white Jews or white British people that came here, white immigrants, period, they had a seat at the table. Black people didn't have a seat at the table. That's why you see a lot of people who are white in this country, their grandfather were immigrants. They wasn't here during slavery times. You got a lot of millionaires and billionaires in this country who are billionaire Jews, billionaire Irish, billionaire Italian. You can go up all up and down the Las Vegas Strip, and damn near every casino is ran by an Italian. damn near every casino. Them people wasn't here around the time of slavery. They came here after the Great Depression. This is the economic structure we've been living under for the last 70 years. And it's gone. It's done. It's over with. They understand this, but a lot of poor whites who ride with Donald Trump, they don't get it yet. They don't understand it yet. They just mad because they can't go to work. Y'all crazy. Y'all ain't getting the understanding up here. It's about to be a complete restructuring of our economic system. The thing is, are you ready for it? Because Donald Trump's grandfather, when he came here from Germany, the man was a pimp. It's true. You can look it up. The man had a brothel. He was standing in the soup line. And when the Great Depression happened, he went from eating soup in a soup line to eating steak in an expensive restaurant because he took advantage of the new power that came to him and all of the immigrants who were white during the time of the Great Depression. And then he passed it on to Donald Trump Sr. And then Donald Trump Sr. passed it on to Donald Trump, who's in the presidency. Y'all got to understand this. The reason why this show right here is going to be one of my most powerful shows is because I'm hoping some of y'all that's listening is sitting back making plans of what you're going to do after the restructuring. Because everything is going to be cheap. If you're a rapper and you've been rapping at somebody else's studio, that person paid $1,500 for a DAT machine. After this whole restructuring, they're going to try to get so much business flowing that everything is going to be rock bottom prices. You can go buy a DAT machine for $200 and start your own studio. You a truck driver, a poor truck driver, you working for check to check, you can't buy your own truck. Rock bottom prices. They're going to be giving them out. This is the advantage that the immigrants had after the Great Depression. That's why a lot of these old white people who lived during them times, they flipping out right now. They are flipping out. Because they know that economy that they've been enjoying millions and billions off of is gone. It's over with. So now, minorities, we at the table now. What are you going to do? Are you going to stand up and speak up and say, hey, we ain't going back to that? We're not going back to that. I know AOC will. I love her to death. The Puerto Rican chick from New York that's in the Senate, I love her to death. She vicious. She's not going back to that. Nancy Pelosi, she might be a white woman, but hey, she down. She gonna change some stuff. Bernie Sanders, when they restructure this whole economy, they're not gonna let this same stuff go back to where it was. You're gonna start seeing more minorities in this country becoming millionaires, wealthy people. Are you ready? This is what they scared of. They see it. It's here. This is something they never thought after the Great Depression when they did the New Deal. They thought this economy was going to last forever. The coronavirus, Mother Nature just dropped a bomb on these people. It's crazy. I can see it in their eyes. I'm finna show you this video of a white guy who had all kinds of cockiness when he was talking mad about Obama. I want y'all to see this guy. I want you to see how he physically, I'm talking about he is emotional. He's scared. This guy's one of those conservative talk show hosts who talk bad about minorities, talk bad about Obama. I think he a slick white supremacist. But I want y'all to look at this guy's expression in his face when he starts talking. You can see the fear that the emotional fear he's having now that he know that this economy is over with. It's done.
So many of us are worried that our current lockdown strategy is leading us quickly into an economic collapse unlike anything this country has ever seen before. But the left-wing media says that if you're worried about the economy in a time like this, then you are a heartless Scrooge putting money above people.
You are. You are. Now, look at his body expressions. Look at his face. Okay? Now, as this video progresses, you're going to visibly see this guy starting to shake when he's talking about this. He knows white privilege that's done. Now, I'm not going to say racism is going to just automatically disappear. No, that's not going to happen. What I'm telling you is this economy that they have been enjoying for the last 70 to 80 years, it's a wrap. It's over with. Now, let's get to this next. I want y'all to visibly see this guy. Listen to how he talking and listen to how he move. Look at how he's moving.
A listener writes to explain why I'm wrong in advocating that we open up the economy to avoid a depression. All of that on the way. But let's start with this. And I have to tell you, I'm pretty mad, pretty ticked off, which I know, speaking of change of pace, that's quite a change of pace for me. But listen, I think a person can take any number of positions on this crisis. And
you see, just I hope y'all saw how he went from introducing his show and introducing himself, and he went from 0 to 10 real quick. Now he's finna go from 10 to 50. Watch this.
And what the best path forward is, and any idea, any path we choose has the potential to result in suffering and death. In fact, that's going to be part of the package no matter what we do. That's the situation that we're in. That's the reality of it. We have to face that. We can't hide from it.
Now, he just went from 10 to about 30. Now, what he's talking about is people are going to die regardless. Okay? Now, I hope y'all listening to this now. So what he's talking about is people are going to die regardless. But he don't want the economy to crash because he know there's finna be a restructuring. He knows this now. So he's willing to sacrifice your grandmother because they say the elderly are more liable to die from this than younger people. That don't mean younger people gonna live. You can still die from this. But he's willing to take that risk to keep this economy in place that we have right now. But what he ain't realizing is, in his bigotry, what he's not realizing is this economy is done. If you shut the economy down for 2 months to keep this virus from spreading, it's done. If you open it back up and send people back to work for a little while, the sickness is going to spread through this country like a wildfire, and the economy is done. So it's not computing in this man's mind. He just know that life for him is finna make a drastic change. Watch this.
In a serious position. But they have painted it as putting money over people, or even as eugenics. I've seen that quite a bit, which is pretty rich coming from the pro-abortion fanatics that they are. What they want to do is portray us as greedy, uncaring, unfeeling Scrooges who would rather have millions die than see our portfolios damaged. Now, this is, as I said, nonsense. It's worse than...
Now, what he's talking about, again, is people are criticizing him. Because, like he just said, he don't want to see the economy crash. He'd rather send you back to work, knowing you might bring a disease back home to your kids. And one of your kids out of the... Say you got 4 kids. Everybody in the house gets sick. One of your kids might die. The other 2 might blow right through it. This whole coronavirus just dropped a bomb on these people. They panicking. And like I always tell people, this country is not going nowhere. Okay? Don't let these people trick you into believing that if this economy crashes, America is done. America is not done. We got too many nuclear bombs for anybody to come in here and take over America. America is not done. The economics of America, how it was, is done, but America is not done. These people are going to have to come back to the table and reconstruct this entire economic system. That's what they don't want. Because if that happens, it's not going to look like what happened after the Civil War. It's not going to look like what happened after the Great Depression. If they have to come in and reconstruct this entire economic system, oh, Bernie Sanders is going to have a field day. You got to understand this. Bernie Sanders is sitting in the Senate right now. I can hear Bernie Sanders right now. We're not going back to the same thing. I can hear him right now. Bernie Sanders is not going back to the same crap that we had before the Reconstruction happened. He's not going to do it. Now, this is the real crazy part about this guy. I want y'all to really look at his features, look at his face. He is visibly shaking on screen. Visibly shaking, people.
Nonsense, actually. And it makes me strongly suspect that those employing this strategy in the media actually want the economy to collapse. That's actually what they want to see happen. And I don't say that lightly, but I can't figure out why else they would be doing this. Why else they would be so flippant about the potential collapse of our economy. Why else they would pretend that to worry about the collapse of the economy is somehow to worry only about money, as if you could actually separate the economy from the people who comprise it.
Now, I'm gonna take a break right there. He just said, I want y'all to listen to what he just said. He just said, how can you separate the economy from the people that comprise of it? He's not talking about everybody. He's talking about people like him. You got to understand, you got to get this understanding in your mind. He knows his days of living life of luxury is over with. Because now he's going to have to compete at a more fairer, opportunistic rate as everybody else. He knows this. You can see it in the man's face. You can see it how his hands is twitching. This guy been a podcaster long before me. I just started this a few months ago. This guy right here, he's all off. He's off. Let me continue on.
We're now being warned, as I reported yesterday, that 30% unemployment is on the horizon. Very, very close on the horizon. The collapse of the commercial mortgage market could be close behind after that. And these are just the relatively immediate consequences of closing thousands of businesses for an indefinite period of time. Keep in mind that the worst employment rate, as I said yesterday, the worst employment rate ever in American history was 25% during the Great Depression. The worst my generation has ever seen, 10%. And we had that about 10 years ago, I think back in 2009. This would be then 3 times worse than anyone in my generation has ever seen. And if you remember the 10% unemployment, people were freaking out over that. This is 3 times worse than that. To emphasize this point, this process is already underway. 140,000 unemployment claims were filed in Ohio, just just last week. In the first week of the shutdown, 140,000 unemployment claims. The amount of traffic so many unemployment claims were filed out of the shutdown, it crashed the website. Millions and millions of people out of work, no income, no way to provide for themselves. After 1 week. 1 week. Okay, and it wasn't even a full week for a lot of people. It was just a few days of a company being shut down, and already they're laying people off and they're firing people. And not because they're greedy, not because these companies are run by greedy fat cats who don't care about the little man. No, most companies in America are small businesses. And the reason why they're getting rid of people, firing, laying off, they have no choice. They can't operate with zero revenue. They have to. They have no choice. Now, the hope, I suppose, is that the jobs will be there to return to once the government lets people go back to work. And this is what I've heard. This is the argument I've heard. I've heard things like, well, the economy can be resurrected. In fact, that's what somebody in some media person, some journalist said to me on Twitter yesterday.
Okay. Now, as I said in my second segment, the Great Depression had a total reconstruction and the New Deal. Now, the New Deal was what a lot of people consider socialism being introduced into the American system. I'm going to get into that on another show. But you can tell this guy right here is frightened. I'm talking about he is scared to death. I don't know how much stocks this guy got out there. I don't know how much money he done lost with this tough economic downturn. But you can tell this guy right here is really frightened. And I can only imagine, some whites sitting inside their homes with that Confederate flag hanging up, shaking in their boots. The ones that know. Like I said, all white people ain't down with this bigotry. But there are quite a few whites out here who know that this depression that we finna get into is gonna knock them down on an even level to where we are as far as financially across this country. They are frightened to death of this. Because we have already adapted to doing with little. We have already adapted to being the poor minorities. A lot of these people don't know how to live like that. And they're frightened. They're scared to death. So once again, I'm going to go over this one more time. And I'm finna end my show. My show is only an hour long. I tried to cram a lot of information into this show. I should have split this show up into 2 parts so I can go into more detail. But y'all have to understand that whole sending you back to work, even though they know there's a deadly virus burning through this country, instead of letting you sit home, paying you some money because you pay taxes. Don't let these people. A guy was on Facebook, showed me he put a meme up there saying some woman told him, if you don't like Trump, why don't you give him his money back? And I basically told him to tell that woman, that's not Trump money. You pay taxes. They're giving you your money back. So don't let these people get you all riled up with this fake patriotism they got. So instead of letting you sit at home and ride this virus out and paying you some of your money back that you done paid all these overpriced goods, every time you go buy a soda, you got to pay damn near 30 cents extra. You done paid all these taxes from work, from your job. That's your money. Don't be scared to spend that check. That's your money. Instead of them letting you sit at home for a month or two while the doctors figure this thing out and get this virus out of this country, they trying to force America to get back to work because they, in their minds, is figuring out that a few 100,000 dead, that's an acceptable loss to them. Think about that now. They're not taking no risk. The people that own these major corporations that you work for, you will never even see these people. You might see their boss. I mean, they foreman. You might see their superintendent walk through the plant with the white hat on. But you will never see the owner. That's the guy that's calling Donald Trump, telling Donald Trump to put you back to work, to open up the American companies again. You will never see him. He's sitting somewhere down there in Florida or out there in California in a mansion with a big old black cast iron fence around his property. He don't have the coronavirus. It's not going to touch him and his family. They got private beaches. They don't have to go to a public beach and catch the coronavirus. You know, they don't have to get on public trains and public airplanes. They got private jets that's coronavirus free. You got to understand this. That's what's happening. But this economy is dead, people. It's a wrap. It's not coming back. It's finna be a major restructuring in this country. A major restructuring. The thing about it is, are you ready? Some of y'all are gonna go right back to being, for you, I can't do nothing. I gave you the game. I done told you everything I need to tell you that these other podcast people ain't gonna talk about. You know, you can talk to Malik Al-Bay, Jamon, all them other dudes that speaking about African this and African diaspora. They could tell you all about the economy and the ukonami and all. They can tell you all about that. What I'm telling you is something that's going to benefit you after the restructuring of this country. I'm not talking about all that other stuff. This ain't one of them shows. I'm bringing you some real life, real happening stuff that's going on right now, while y'all playing mean games. This is the Daily Read, and I'm your host, Marcus Gentry. Thank you.
The business, motherfucker.
The Daily Read.